Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So I thought I would bring y'all into the kitchen today to give you a little bit of an update on the kitchen renovation and how it's been going. As you are probably aware, I did a whole bunch of work while Mr. Smith was out of the country, actually on a business trip for a few weeks. And I didn't even tell him I was doing it. I just dove in and surprised him when he came home. I had intended to film his reaction to walking into a completely different kitchen, but he was so quick to get in the door I didn't have a chance to set the camera up, and it was the middle of the night, so it is what it is. But regardless, he was surprised and he loved what he saw so far. Now, the kitchen renovation is not 100% finished yet. There's just a couple minor things that still need to be done, but the big thing will have to wait for a little while, and I'll get to that in a minute. But over here on this side of the kitchen, you may recall, or if you're new here, you may have not have seen it, that when we bought the house here in Arkansas, the cabinets on this side were actually kind of two hutches. They were DIY, they were made out of rough cut lumber. The cabinet up above was really small, and the cabinet underneath the countertop didn't have a single shelf inside it. It was just a great big open space. Because it was rough cut lumber, nothing really sat right. I had so many things fall out of those upper cabinets. I could not wait to get rid of them. And so the first year that we lived here, we actually worked on this side of the kitchen. Mr. Smith and I pulled out those hutches. We removed everything that was on this side of the kitchen. We got rid of the stove because the range, while it was kind of nice having the double oven scenario, the range had some damage to it, and we started noticing that we were smelling propane, and we were like, you know what, we're just going to get a new stove so we don't have to worry about it. So we bought a new range. The range that I have here, it's made by Samsung. It's called it's part of the Bespoke line. And one of the things I love about it, not only because it's a gas stove and I love gas stoves, is that the glass part can come in different colors and you can actually change them. So like, I personally wanted a white stove, and it is almost impossible to find white gas stoves or stoves in general anymore, other than like the really cheap electric ones, which I had in Alabama for a little while. I just like a white stove because they're brighter, they brighten up the kitchen, they reflect light, they're easier to keep clean. I had a black topped stove for a while. It shows every speck of dust. It's impossible to keep clean. They drive me crazy. This was as close as I could get. It has the white in the front and the control panel and everything. And again, you can actually change the panels out to different colors. The top was stainless steel. I could not find a gas stove, y'all, that was white on top. Not without paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. There are some very high-end ranges out there that are all white, but I just couldn't I couldn't afford one of those, you guys. So the closest I could get was stainless steel, and I just went with that. And then of course we installed the new cabinets. We put in the new uppers, we put in the base cabinets, we installed acacia wood butcher block countertops. And I used touches, hardware that were basically in line with what I used in Alabama in the cabinets that I installed. Our kitchen in Alabama had beautiful solid oak cabinets, but I needed more storage, and so I created an entire wall of cabinets. And because they weren't the same cabinets as the originals in the rest of the kitchen, I wanted them to be, and the coffee's done, I wanted them to be a little bit different, like they were their own thing. And so they had different cabinet doors, and so I installed different hardware on those. And I loved the jadeite and milk glass handles, and so that's what I went ahead and I used in this kitchen as well. The uppers, of course, are painted ultra white, and so I used the green jadeite sort of handles on those for contrast. And then my base cabinets are called copper patina, and I used the white milk glass handles on those. Again, just for some contrast. And then the kitchen walls on this side, I originally had painted it dove white and decided I wanted to actually go with the color that I had painted in Alabama, which is called Ivy Shadow. It's a Valspar color. The copper patina, that is a bear color from Bear Paint. And I know that the color really does not show up on camera. Is basically white with a hint of green to it. The only time you can really tell that there's any sort of color to it at all is when it's directly up against something that is pure white. That's the only place that you really see the contrast, and I just like it. And that's actually one of the things that I just did on Sunday. I painted the whole kitchen the Ivy Shadow color. So other than the paint, you guys have pretty much seen all of this, and I've gotten a lot of questions about having this antique shelf up here instead of a range hood. You know, we've never actually had a range that was an exhaust fan that sucked air out of the kitchen. Every exhaust fan that we've ever had over our ranges has been the kind with a filter built into them. And, you know, so far we've had this shelf up there for, gosh, 2 years now, and I've not had any issues whatsoever with like grease or food vapors or anything like that. You know, even with a range hood, when you've got things in your kitchen, knickknacks or, you know, anything really, you do have to periodically wash everything down. The cabinets, even with a range hood, will get a slight greasy dust on them. And, you know, it's normal to just go through and wash down your cabinet doors and things like that. And I've always had to wash things in the kitchen. You know, if I have knickknacks anywhere, you know, every few months I take them all down, I wash them with soapy water, and I put them back. And I've always had to do that with a range, you know, an exhaust fan in the kitchen. And so not having a range hood, not having an exhaust fan, honestly, I haven't really noticed any difference. It's pretty much the same. I've not had any increase in buildup. Now, I will say, if you do a lot of frying, if you do a lot of fried foods, then you might have an issue not having a range hood, but it has not been an issue for us. Now, you know, someday down the road, if we ever decide to move again, I will take my antique French shelf with me wherever I go, and we'll install a range hood at that time, because most people do want them. But again, we've not had an issue whatsoever not having one. All right, so like I said, all of this over here you've pretty much already seen. So I'm going to swing around to the rest of the kitchen and show you what you haven't fully seen yet. So this side of the kitchen is what I worked on while Mr. Smith was out of town. I came in here with saws and hammers and all the things, and I ripped all the rest of this out. Now, several months ago, I had gone ahead and removed the dishwasher and all of the stuff over here, but I had not gotten around to this yet. And there used to be an L of cabinets and countertop that went around this way a little bit. And so I ripped all of that out, got rid of the drain board sink from the kitchen, not completely. I did keep it because I hope to build a wash station for the garden someday using that. But I went with the much bigger deep farmhouse sink, single basin. I love it. The sink is made out of quartz, so it's very durable, and it just brightens up the kitchen so much. I installed 2 sets of drawers over here. It's easier for me, I've noticed, having more drawers than cabinets when it comes to the lowers. It just, because I've got all sorts of like tools and utensils and things like that, and this just helps keep it all a little bit more organized than it does with cabinets. So I went with 2 stacks of drawers over here, giving me 6 nice drawers for storage. I've got, of course, my silverware. I've got, I have all of my parchment paper right here. And on top of that, because it's in a sleeve, I have all of my covers for my coffee mugs. Keeps gnats and flies and everything out of my coffee when I'm outside. And when I'm inside, I've noticed it keeps my coffee warm a little bit longer. So I usually have one of these on my coffee mug. Of course, I installed the base for the sink over here. And then back here in the corner, I do have a cabinet unit with a drawer above it. And yes, it is blocked a little bit by the table. But I just put things down in that cabinet that I don't use very often. And really, right now, I'm keeping like the cans of paint that I use for the kitchen, so that if I need to do touch-ups or things like that down the road, it's all right there in that cabinet and easily accessible and in the room that I need it to be in. And so that cabinet is just kind of out of the way. Again, things I don't use very often. And then over here on the wall, you see my antique table. I bought this table when we lived in Alabama, and I used it sort of like a little island in our kitchen there. And for a few weeks, I had it here in the kitchen as a little bit of an island, but there's just not enough room. I would love to be able to use it as an island, but this kitchen is more narrow than our kitchen in Alabama, and it's just not functional that way, particularly because our door is right here. And this is the door we go in and out of. And so it was too chaotic, but that actually is kind of the perfect spot over there for it. I actually built a platform on wheels to put it on, to raise it up to be the same level as the countertop, to make it like a usable countertop. But it was too bulky, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to so rarely go in there, it'll be just fine like that. My sink, now y'all know I got rid of my dishwasher. That was one of the first things I did on this side of the kitchen. I hate dishwashers. Did the same thing in Alabama, got rid of the dishwasher. I just don't like them. And to me, I don't think they're very efficient as far as the time it takes to get your kitchen cleaned up. Even on Thanksgiving, it doesn't take that long to do all the dishes, get them washed up, dried up, and put away, and then you've got the rest of the time to spend with your family. It just doesn't take that long, and I would much rather use that space for other things. In Alabama, where the dishwasher was, I put a curtain, and I kept my buckets under there, the things that I use the most, like my bread flour, my wheat berries, and things like that. And then I had built a couple shelves so that there was space for the buckets at the bottom, and then a couple shelves underneath it, and then the countertop. And it was just a much more functional space for me. And of course, like I said, I got rid of the dishwasher over here, and for a wash basin for washing my dishes, I use one of these big bowls because I think they're pretty to be sitting in the kitchen, much prettier than a dishpan. It works perfectly. I have my little rack down here in the sink that I set my dishes on. It's all kind of out of the way, and visually it just looks much nicer than it did before. Now I did have a great big wash pan that I'd bought from Lehman's, and I had intended to use it here after we redid the kitchen, but it doesn't fit in the sink. It's actually too big for the sink. So it serves a different purpose. Because we don't have a coat closet and we go in and out of the house all the time, I keep it right there under the table now for us to put our everyday shoes in. And so it just kind of keeps everything out of the way and contained. And while we're looking down here at the floor, you can also see the new tile that I put in. We originally had a tile here that kind of looked like slate, but I went ahead and ripped all of that out. I had a little bit of help from Little Miss Bean doing that, and cleaned it all up, and then I installed this porcelain tile. It looks like hardwood, but of course there's no maintenance or anything like that. Very durable, and it can hold up to dog toenails and everything as they're running through here to go outside. So right outside the kitchen, you can see my bookshelf over there. That's where I keep all of my cookbooks. Well, most of my cookbooks. I had built that shelf years ago, back when Mr. Smith was still in the Army. You saw that prominently in my kitchen in Alabama on the far wall. So that's not anything new. But again, painted everything, all of the walls, the ivy shadow. I replaced all of the trim around the windows, and around the walls, the doors. All the trim has been replaced. It was this really narrow little, like 1x2 rough lumber, completely raw. Ripped all that out, replaced it with, just a very simple rustic trim. It's 1x3s and 1x4s. Painted it all white. It just brightens everything up. And I just think it looks great. Now, like I said, there are a few things that are not yet finished. One of the things, well, the big thing is the countertop. This countertop here is actually 2 pieces, and I put it in here as a temporary hold because the actual countertop that's going to go in here is also acacia wood, just like the other side of the kitchen. However, it is very, very heavy. I could not do that myself when Mr. Smith was out of town. It's 10 feet long and it's butcher block. It's heavy, y'all. And so that is actually going to be waiting most likely until around Thanksgiving when my other son comes to visit, so that we've got lots of manpower to do that. Now, I had a couple people asking, well, can't your husband help you? Can't your other son who's in Arkansas help you? Yes, but it's really heavy. It was really expensive. Mr. Smith has bad shoulder. I have a bad shoulder. And while, yes, our other son could help us, I would rather wait and have some extra hands just to be safe, because y'all, it costs a lot of money. And if it got dropped and damaged, it would like make me sick. So to me, it's just better to wait till we got the extra hands to help. And then that way I know it's going to get in and it's going to be carried into the house safely. So this will work just fine for the time being. It's not quite big enough to cover all of the cabinets, so I just have a tile sitting here filling in that gap for the time being, and we'll just make do with that. But once the countertop, the actual countertop goes in, I'm going to be doing the backsplash. And so you can see where I've just got the tiles kind of sitting here against the wall, so I can kind of see what that's going to look like. And I am loving it. I think it's just going to be the perfect touch. But again, I can't install this until I get the countertop put in. So these are just going to kind of sit there and be on display like that until the time comes where we can get that that actual countertop put in. My faucet here, I'm loving this faucet. I have always wanted one of these big sprayer nozzle sinks, but I also need to be able to hook up my water filter. And, you know, I've used a filter like this for many years. I've also gotten a Lexapure, which is similar to the popular Berkey. I keep that one over next to the coffee maker on the Hoosier, where our coffee station is. But I needed to be able to hook this one up. And to hook this up, I need a normal faucet. Well, I found this faucet setup on Amazon, and it has both. So I've got my wonderful great big sprayer nozzle, and then I've got the regular faucet right here. So I just turn on the water, and this is a control for this faucet, so I can do on and off. And then we've got this one, and if I needed to, it's also got a lock on the handle right here where I could depress this, turn it on, and latch it in place, and it'll stay on while I'm using it. So I love, love, love this faucet. Oh gosh, I'm so happy with it. I'm so glad I found it. And I got it on Amazon, y'all. The sink came from Home Depot. Tiles came from Home Depot. And yeah, it's looking so much better. So like I said, the countertop still needs to go in. Then I can put in the tile, like actually install it. And then there is another thing that I still want to do, and that is I want to paint the metal for this window. I'm going to make it white also, just to kind of blend it in with everything that's over here. Of course, I've got to tape off the glass and the screen and all of that. But I'm going to paint that white as well. And y'all, this is just such a completely different kitchen than what it used to be. And I'm so happy with how it's coming along. And I'm looking forward to being done with it. You know, it's so much different than from what this was when we bought the house. This side also had some very interesting cabinets. They were very tall, way above standard. They were like this tall, y'all. And when I was washing dishes, I was always getting wet because I had to lift my arms up so high. The water would run up my elbow and just get all over me. So just having my counter normal height is wonderful. You know, we had open shelving up here originally. And to me, it was always just so busy. I couldn't wait to get rid of it. Just the busyness visually. There was like contact paper stuff on the wall that looked like wood, like all different colors. But yeah, it's just, I'm very happy with it. And I can't wait for Thanksgiving so that we can get it finished. But that is it for today, you guys. That's all I had to share with y'all. I hope you like seeing the changes in the kitchen as much as I do. So if you have any questions about anything that has happened here in the kitchen, just leave them in the comments down below and I will answer. With that, God bless, and I'll talk to y'all next time.